Hi, Jess. Hi, Jen.
Hey, how are you?
We're good. So today we're talking about outsourcing BDRs. A lot of times, managing an entry level BDR team, LDRs, SDRs, MDRs, whatever you call them, it's tough work. And outsourcing the entire function, we see with a lot of our clients is very enticing. And I know you guys just helped a 5.5 billion euro client on ramp a telemarketing agency based on a different continent. And I want to talk with you today about what you learned, what mistakes were made, what successes you saw helping that client.
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. So what do before you get started on one of these projects, what's the very first thing you do?
So the first thing that we try and do is understand who's supposed to be doing what and what the baseline is. So what is current state and how are we doing? So do we have things like SLAs? How do assignment rules work? Is there a BDR team in place, or is there some sort of like lead qualification group in place that's supposed to be doing some initial qualification before it gets to a sales rep? Are any leads assigned directly to the sales rep? And then how are we doing in terms of following up with those leads quickly and thoroughly? And then how are we doing in terms of converting those leads to meetings and then to opportunities, of course. So that's usually what I try and do, is to just figure out who are the players, who's supposed to be doing what, and how are we doing? And importantly, like, where are the opportunities for improvement?
And so that's
I'd
the
also
internal.
add,
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'd also add, in terms of like ownership, making sure who's the person to escalate concerns or if there's questions from the BDRs, because oftentimes that's not sometimes defined right up front and it causes a
Yeah.
little backlog.
Yeah. Or they're each talking to their rep, right?
Right.
They're siloed. Really interesting. And so, but that's internal. You're looking at like existing rates,
Yep.
not with a net new function.
Correct.
Really interesting. And, agencies are expensive. I do think that when you use an outsourced agency for this, it really gets scrutinized. Like every single success and failure has quite a bright light on it. When you think about the problems that outsourcing a BDR like will and won't fix, are there any guidelines that you'd recommend?
Oh, good question. So yeah, I mean it's pretty expensive. Like, in general, of the things that you could spend money on, BDRs are pricey. Like, even if you're paying for like a dollar per lead or a dollar per opportunity, like it can be upwards of like $1,500, $2,000 an opportunity. So it's not cheap. So I would say that yes, you would behoove yourselves to look at things really closely and manage it really closely. So one thing that I've always found is super helpful is having like who's getting the chokehold if things are not going well. So having somebody who's managing this process and taking ownership in, like, as an independent person. And similar to what Jen was saying, like, if we get a batch of leads coming in, or if there was an issue with or something that the team needs to know, or if we're doing an upsell campaign and we really need to have some new education going out to the field, like having that one person who's going to manage, like, of all of the different types of leads that the team is working on, like, let's prioritize these first, let's prioritize these next, like, oh, we missed a couple of these over here, not sure why, but I'm getting these into the right hands. Having that person who's like managing at a very tactical level, and who is like getting the team fired up and getting feedback on the calls, like someone who's really on the ground.
Yeah. And is that within the agency, within the,
No, I mean, yeah, I do think it's Yes. So obviously it's helpful if you can have someone on the agency side who is really quite clear and can kind of rally their troops. But I do think even within your own company, like, you need to have some, because they're not going to know, like, they're not going to know if a marketing manager is running a new campaign, and from a go-to-market strategy, like, this is just way more important than all of the other stuff that we have going on. So there does need to be someone internal who has got an eye and a pulse on what's coming in and what needs to be worked on.
And so that adds even more pressure, right? That if you're paying $1,500, $2,000 an opportunity, you still also need a full-time headcount internally.
It's tough.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And that can be a little, it's a hard pill to swallow for sure, because it is such an investment. And I mean, Jen, I'm sure you've seen this too, but it is like quite, it's like quite enticing to just kind of say like, oh, like layer it up to like a sales manager, like their team is going to be the ones getting the leads, so they'll be able to manage the BDR team, and like we've got a BDR team, they've got a project manager over there, that's good enough. And it's just truly not. I mean, even the absolute best sales manager has got so many other things going on, and they should be focusing on like deal management, like negotiation, and they're just not going to be at the tactical level that you need for the initial lead qualification stage.
I think often at times too, at least in all of our experiences, when you hear the notion of a BDR team, coming on board, obviously it perks the ears of other departments. So oftentimes they get bombarded with, can you do this call campaign? Can you do this? We have an event coming up, and they're getting hammered at all sides. So having someone on the internal side partner up with an external agency is important, because they can prioritize bandwidth. What is the order to hit first? Do they have room for this? What's the split? Otherwise it can get really chaotic and performance could suffer.
Yeah.
Totally.
In terms of performance, like what are some SLAs that you think, generally folks should be expecting of these agencies?
So I think one thing to like things that I would look for when I was onboarding an agency is, do they have a point of view on what those SLAs should be, period? Because I don't want that. I don't want me to be driving what that is. Like, you should be confident and capable enough in your own craft that you have an idea of what those SLAs should be. So when a team is coming to me saying that, they want to follow up with a lead within the first hour, and they're going to do 7 touches, calls and emails, if they've got a point of view for like what sort of cadence works in different industries or for different types of prospects, like that's always a great sign. If they've got a point of view for how they're going to do assignment within their team, because usually you're not hiring just like one external BDR, but you're probably hiring a few external BDRs that are going to split the load of leads. And so if they have a point of view for hearing the kind of campaigns that you guys are running and what the prospects are, how the sales territories work, they're like, okay, we're either going to have a BDR aligned to a team or a team of reps, or like this specific industry or these types of campaigns. Like if they've got an idea on like how they're going to like logistically work these leads, that's always a good sign. And of course, like I can't really overstate just like the like level of competence in Salesforce, because I mean 95% of our clients are using Salesforce, but whoever the POC is who's managing the external BDR team is, like that project manager needs to be extremely savvy with Salesforce. So if you send them a report, hey, I'm seeing these 5 leads haven't gotten called, or these seem to be falling through the cracks, or we're running this new campaign, be on the lookout for responses to this campaign, like they've got to be able to like be with it in real time, and being able to like run new list views for their team and making sure that they've got everything that they need to go forward. Those are the things that come to mind. What about you, Jen?
Yeah, those are definitely like the critical ones. To like draw off that, I was gonna say, yeah, they got to be not only Salesforce proficient, but honestly just like scrappy. Like working with someone who kind of just figures things out with limited time, limited resources is often the case with outsourcing external teams. Is maybe they need to turn something around real quick, or someone internal has an important event or a list to call out, and it's that person's job to kind of like pull together a plan pretty quickly. So I often find that the scrappier that you are, the more that you can kind of like not worry about perfection, but like how do we hit the ground is more important.
Yeah, I think the rolling with the punches and just like not like being pretty unflappable, but then also like pretty competitive. Like the best internal BDR manager I've known, like they were just like cheerleader all the time, and just like trying to get the leads in. They were very focused on the metrics. They had the Salesforce dashboard up every day, all day. They were super passionate about coaching to like kind of increase their call to meeting ratio. Like they're just kind of maniacal. And you can get a sense of whether they've got that on the phone or whether they're like, yeah, we do this for companies. Like
Yeah, a
this
little
is what
flat.
it is. Like, I mean, you can tell it's an
Yeah.
attitude.
We've worked with both.
I mean, it sounds like the kind of unicorn within this function. That's somebody who can train and find, junior reps who can smile and dial, and then can also run the metrics and be on top of every single lead.
It's a tough role for sure.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think now when every agency, of course, has a pitch and a rate, how closely do you interview that person, like their team lead who's going to be doing the blocking and tackling every day?
I mean, I want to get comfortable with that person, because that's going to be the person that you are firing off emails to. If there's a problem, you're reaching out to them. And similarly, like if they find problems or they're calling a bunch of leads and it's just dry, like they're getting nothing back, like you want them to also communicate back to you. So yeah, you have to I think, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say they're more important than the callers, but they are like pretty critical.
I think they are. Yeah.
Like I think a lot of things can be left on the table if you just do not have a good manager. Like you could have one or two great callers, but they will be stymied and not able to scale if you don't have someone who really knows what they're doing.
It's a more evergreen role as well, right? Like reps come and
Totally.
go.
Especially BDRs. Yeah. I mean, they're often very junior folks. They're trying to become salespeople is usually the career path. And you are lucky if they stick around for more than a year or two.
Yeah.
Getting comfortable, I feel, is a good way to put it, especially considering on the cheerleading side front is great, the mentoring aspect, but on the other side, like they're gonna be asked a lot of questions around why wasn't this lead followed up? Why did it take this long? What happened? And you have to think pretty quickly on your feet, or just kind of just say, like, we dropped the ball. So I think getting comfortable at that level of dialogue, I think, is pretty important because that will happen.
Right. Because every mistake, it's not like an internal team. Like you're so conscious of how much you're paying.
Scrutinized, yeah.
Yeah. And when people make human errors, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Jess, you mentioned dashboards. I know for this function, you built some really cool stuff for them in like Analytics Studio. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. So we were super lucky that this team had Salesforce Analytics, which is an awesome tool. I have not used it a ton. But this company is in an awkward spot in that they've actually got 3 different business units coming together. And so they have 3 different Salesforce orgs that the team is all working out of. So they've got sales reps and BDRs working out of 3 different Salesforce orgs. We've got leads coming into all 3 of them, and we're trying to hit the same SLA across the 3. So as you can imagine, just logistically, it's like a super challenge to have the reps and the BDRs even just know what they have to work on a daily basis, because they've got to like flip flop across all of these different tools. So really the purpose of this dashboard, the impetus for creating it, was to just create one single place that each BDR or each salesperson could see who are the leads assigned to me. Like that was the initial ask, so that they didn't have to have 3 different tabs open. They could have one place to be like, okay, in the last 90 days, here are the MQLs that are assigned to me. So this dashboard is built in Salesforce Analytics. It pulls data from all the 3 Salesforce orgs. And so this first tab here is just around MQL tracking. And so we can see we have a number of filters to look at MQLs that came in from a certain time period. We can look at the lead status, the SLA flag. So this was something new that we had implemented because we didn't actually know how they were doing. Like when I was saying, like, usually the first thing we look at is like, what is the baseline? It was really hard to tell because we knew that we had thousands of leads that had 0 follow-up, like at all. But we didn't really know of the ones that we were even following up with, like how quickly did that happen? And so we had to implement some data architecture so that we could see, are they open? Like nobody has followed up with them. The follow-up was completed, but it was late, or the follow-up had happened and it was on time. So that we kind of had some new SLA flags there. And then this team is very ABM focused. And so it's really a pretty small account universe. And so wanting to look at things from a very account perspective is great. And this dashboard, just literally shows week over week, how are we doing? How many MQLs are coming in? And then I can open that lead directly into the Salesforce org.
I would say shout out to the SLA kind of flag architecture, because I think that was a game changer for this particular client, but other clients that we work with as well, just because Salesforce can get really obviously metrics heavy. We're very comfortable in it, but for other folks that aren't as savvy, having that visualization of like the color coded flags and whether SLAs have been met has been such an important like report to refer. I just wanted to say that was a great.
Yeah, that's Todd's method, right? Where if you have a red flag, you need to call and you call when you have no more red flags.
Simple equation logic on the back end. I think he's also done some stuff for conversion, but it's just like great because it's just, it's one stop rather than kind of like pull together and look at follow-up activity and dates and stuff.
Yes.
Saves so much time.
Yes, totally. Speaking of conversion, we just created this view that is trying to pull together more of like a funnel view. So as I had mentioned before, like we truly had no idea what was happening in terms of the MQLs coming in, just because we were truly not even following up on like most of them, like 60% of them. There was tons of stuff falling through the cracks. And so this is a view now to see we had gone back. So when we're hitting our SLAs, I forgot to hit that stab. But this is just showing us like, how are we doing in terms of hitting our SLAs, sales versus our outside telemarketing agency. So we can track that in real time now. We can also drill down by sales team, by the individual BDR rep. We have a live view in terms of the accounts where we have action required or SLA pending. So these are the folks that like no follow-up has been logged in and we're beyond the SLA timeframe. So that's been super great to just level up any problems or things that are slipping through the cracks despite our best efforts, because that happens. I mean, there's a lot of volume, but we want to be able to see it so that we can do something about it.
Also, though, like, did I just see 93% SLA compliance from?
I know, it's so exciting. Yes,
it's incredible.
It's so great, and this has been super helpful just politically in the organization, because there was a new sales leader that came into place, and he very much wanted to build out an internal BDR team, which is awesome. I love internal BDR teams, but they weren't necessarily thinking they were going to hire a headcount to manage that BDR team. We had just stood up this external team. And it was a real win to come back and say, this team is performing well. Because I think there was some resistance and some maybe sandbagging that they were trying to prove that we would have better results internally, which may or may not be the case. But it's been super helpful to have actual real life data to say, like, these are the leads that are getting followed up with. These are the leads that aren't getting followed up with. In fact, it's been like such a 180 turnaround. Like some leads we had previously assigned to the sales reps, some like contact us leads or people filling out like request more information forms. And the SLAs have been so disparate. Like you can see sales was 43%, the telemarketing agency is 93%, that we've actually decided to assign all of the leads to the telemarketing agency, because they will just follow up faster. They will get them on the phone more reliably. The sales team, I think, has really built out a lot of trust in terms of the transfers and the meetings that have been scheduled, because they see the numbers. And that's been super gratifying to see that we can implement a process that can be consistently followed if we can kind of see what the so this is our conversion, where we're able to now, from a higher level standpoint, more from like the executive group be able to see what's coming in the top of the funnel for MQLs, what's converting for this team. SALs are like meetings scheduled, and then SQLs are like things that make it into the pipeline. So we're looking at things like quarter over quarter. Like you can see, like our follow-up completed SLA met went from like 20% in Q1 to 92% in Q4. Like we're super excited and proud of the progress that the team has been able to make. And yeah, and then of course wanting to see contribution to pipeline and closed one. For this telemarketing team, we do also give them a kicker if opportunities are created and then also closed. So, that's also something to keep in mind as just in terms of the payment structure. If you're working with an agency to have an incentive for qualified opportunities being created. And then the other thing that we've just created is also more of like a marketing manager view, because again, the marketing team is also struggling with 3 different Salesforce orgs and trying to manage their campaigns and whether their leads are getting followed up with. So we had done a good job for the salespeople and for the BDRs to see what are the leads that they needed to be following up on, but we hadn't necessarily given the marketing team good visibility into, for your campaign, here's where everybody is. Like you've generated so many MQLs and those MQLs have converted into these number of SALs, SQLs, because they've got their own metrics that they're trying to hit. And so this is another Salesforce analytics dashboard where you can filter down by a specific campaign, or an ultimate, like a campaign parent, like we have a parent-child hierarchy for campaigns. And then they can be able to see their metrics and then also the specific, all of the campaign members related to that campaign. So that's been super helpful. The marketing team is like very excited because again, they really just had no way to do this outside of the 3 different Salesforce orgs. We just had marketing managers going rogue, creating reports all over the place that had different filters. Like we were not able to, as a team, consistently be able to report on their effectiveness of their campaigns. So yeah, this is where we're at.
Incredible. I can just see, like, as a marketing director, going through every campaign and just looking at the conversion rates, like that alone,
Yes.
at a glance, whenever I want, that I can compare conversion rates.
Yes. Where we're going next is like 100% where your head is at, I think, in terms of like demand planning. So this team does not really do integrated demand planning across marketing, sales, and product. So it's wild because they all have different goals that do not align. And so now that we've been able to kind of show like what the baseline is and how they are actually performing, now they're going through, a 2024 planning exercise where they will have goals for campaigns and goals at a product level. Like one of the things on this dashboard, I didn't really go over it, but they've got this field called top line bucket and program that align to like the product hierarchy. So the product team also has goals for leads and pipeline and closed one revenue. And so that's attempting to just kind of draw the through line between the marketing campaigns and the products that we're promoting to generate pipeline.
Incredible. Well, thank you both so much for sharing this. And if you want to learn more about Sponge, visit sponge.io. Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye.